just a dime, and you say you belong.
Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most iconic cars of all time, the Volkswagen Classic Beetle from 2003, Mexican production. To say this is an iconic car will be quite an understatement, as this is quite possibly the most iconic and relevant car of the last century. This particular model is a 2003 model produced in Mexico in a metallic silver paint. It is one of the very last cars produced here in Mexico before the car was finally put out of its misery. The car was kept being produced by many reasons, but most importantly, due to the fact that it was the cheapest car to build and maintain here in Mexico. Its reliability and endurance made it quite possibly the ultimate unkillable vehicle. Its styling is also one of the most iconic and it can be described only as timeless, as no other car has transcended through time so seamlessly like this one. As you can probably expect from a car designed in the 30s and 40s, this car still has the still original rims. These were widened and painted black so they seem more aggressive. That was a little styling on my part, but still definitely fits the retro design of the car. It also gives it a more timeless kind of vibe, despite being an already 17-year-old vehicle. Even with the little chrome hubcaps. As you can probably guess from a car that was so popular and sold in Mexico, this was one of the most stolen vehicles throughout the years. In order to prevent that, Volkswagen decided to adapt a little alarm in order to prevent the car from being stolen. They put this little key slot on the left side of the vehicle, which you could activate with a little special key that they give you at the dealership. It isn't flashy, but it definitely did the job. It remained one of the most stolen vehicles throughout this time. One of the most noticeable redesigns of the car was the change of the taillights. While the originals are iconic, Volkswagen decided to make them bigger in order to make them more visible. The main change was the shape, which was now a circle which featured three stripes: one turning light, one brake light, and one reverse light. These in particular are an alternate version designed by the original parts manufacturer Hella, and are dubbed Aqua. Because they're so easy to change, there are countless aftermarket options to choose from, some from Hella, others from other manufacturers, ranging from the classic styling to more modern styles like the chrome thing from the early 2000s. Here at the back we have the main reason people bought the car, the pretty much bulletproof boxer air-cooled 4-cylinder engine. This version is an enhanced modernized version of the motor. Now a 1.6-liter fuel injection monster, this little car has a whopping 44 horsepower. Yeah, in terms of builds this was high output performance. Still, the car weighs less than a metric ton, so it doesn't feel as low as you might think. And even if underpowered, this is quite possibly the most reliable German motor produced in the early 2000s, compared to BMW and Mercedes, whose reliability is still a meme to these days. The air-cooled motor and the rear-wheel drive, also with the rear-mounted motor, makes this car a very unique piece of engineering, even for modern-day standards. This car was truly the people's cars when it was released, and it attracted every type of buyer back in the day. Young adults entering the workforce looking for the first car, growing families, elderly people who needed an easy-to-get-in car, you name it. Which makes the absurdly straight interior all the more shocking. Sure, it has 4 seats and the interior room is bigger than it appears, but this was designed for German people, of course, so it can seat 4 tall adults going for a stroll comfortably. However, the back seat sure is only recommendable for younger kids. It had 4 seat belts, but the 3-point update was only featured on the front ones. And even if they were featured on the back, let's be honest, it's not like they're gonna help much when it comes to safety in this car, since this collapses like a soda can when you crush it. It has 2 trunks or luggage compartments, which are an oddity on a car this size, one at the front of the vehicle and one behind the back seats. Both of them are shockingly practical, even if not precisely big. And even if you struggle with some space, you can easily bend the back seats and you will have a big space enough to carry some big cargo. Although with the underpowered 4-cylinder engine, it's not recommendable at all. Now to the front of the vehicle, which usually is where the engine is, and in this particular case is the source of about 80% of the Volkswagen Beetle jokes. Called hood, trunk, whatever you want to call it, it is a very useful luggage compartment. It has a space big enough for the spare wheel and probably an entire day of shopping groceries. Not big for today's standards, but useful nevertheless. Many Volkswagen owners put a chain and padlock to prevent robbers from breaking in and stealing anything from here. Like the luggage compartment from behind the seats, this is not particularly big, but still very useful, and although not recommended for big cargo or big purchases on Black Friday weeks. In order to demonstrate how small the space is, I'm gonna enter myself into this compartment. And as you can probably see, I struggled to get in, and this definitely did not closes. So, yeah, not that big. Like I said, sitting in the back of one of these cars is not particularly comfortable for any adults. In order to do so, I'm gonna enter myself. As you can probably see, I can sit somehow comfortably because it's tall inside, but given the leg room, my knees are gonna be constantly in touch with the people in the front, even if they didn't mean to, because the cloth in the seats is not padded, so they were gonna feel my knee bones the entire of the journey. And as you can probably notice, getting in and out is not precisely easy due to the fact that the seats are manual and the space is highly reduced. The interior of the car has many materials from modern Volkswagens, in this case cars from the 80s and 90s. The plastic, although not good looking, is by far more durable than modern day plastic interiors. It is rugged and gives the car a more tough appearance inside. Next we have the glove box compartment, which is in this car somehow reduced, sorry for the mess, and inside we find the owner's manual, and some decent space, and on the left corner we find a lever. This lever is actually used to open up the front trunk of the car. It is a two-lock mechanism that Volkswagen installed in order to make the access more secured. One is in here, and when you push the button on the handle of the front of the car, that's number 2. Next we have the pedals, which are, at this point, one of the most iconic pedals on Volkswagen. Small but functional and with a very mechanical feel, these are very durable and surprisingly comfortable to use. This car in particular has the gas pedal replaced with a roller accelerator, but it looks alright. And next, wow, we have a fire extinguisher. Yeah, Volkswagen installed this as a safety measure, but rather than comforting, the sight of this gives you the idea that you might be in a fire hazard of a car. And like all extinguishers, it must be refilled periodically to actually work. The gear lever or stick shift is yet another quirk of this ancient car. No other car produced in this year feels like this when you shift. So mechanical, so satisfying. It has a 4-speed transmission and every gear change feels drastically. Not in a bad way, but not like in many modern cars which are engineered to make gear changes as smooth as possible. Entering reverse is another quirk since you have to push the lever in and pull it the way to the left and back, which requires some practice, and if not done correctly, it may grind the gears and make a horrible sound every time you try to change. And finally, we have the stereo of the car, which in this, because it was the cheapest car of the Volkswagen lineup, it shares the stereo with another Volkswagen model. In this case, it may be an early 90s Golf or Jetta, since it has only AM, FM radio and a cassette player. And in order to enjoy your music like any normal people in 2020, you might need a cassette to 3.5mm adapter or just change the entire stereo for a modern one. This one is probably for the better. Now we have to answer one final question in this video. Why is this car so iconic? Why is this car so popular despite being a relic at this point? Simple answer is, because it is surprisingly endearing. No other car has affected society like this one before or probably ever will. A car with such a bizarre origin story that against all odds managed to blend in everywhere it went and conquer the hearts of millions. It is the quintessential underdog story people fall in love with. From World War II warrior to love symbol to Disney mascot, and the only co-star of Lindsay Lohan that has never complained about her. This car definitely has a very colorful history, with many events surrounding it. People all around the world recognize it. Millions love it, and thousands still claim it is the best car it ever existed. And it might just be, but not performance-wise, of course, because it is quite lackluster in that department, or volume of units sold, because that record will be broken again and again from the years to come. But because of the way, the only way, its unique way, it relates to people and people connect to it. It is truly a people's car, and to claim that another one may take its place in history, it is just a crazy thing to even assume. This was the last one of its kind, and it would remain so for the years to come. This is not just only a little German compact car that was developed in the 40s. It is a pop culture icon that it's embedded throughout history for the last century, and it will remain so for the years to come, and forever will be remembered as the one iconic and only Volkswagen Beetle.